Hi, welcome to Pyrography Made Easy. I'm Brenda. In this tutorial episode, I am going to show you how to create the fluffy Douglas Squirrel tail that I did. My technique relies on the use of a charcoal pencil, a white charcoal pencil. There are two brands that I use, General and Conte, and I'll put more information about them in the description below. Well, let's get to work. I begin by drawing in the light colored top hairs on the tail with a white charcoal pencil. Then I burn around the charcoal lines, avoiding them as much as possible. The tail is darker along the bottom since it's resting on his back, so the fur is compressed down and it's not getting as much sunlight. So burn pretty dark along the bottom of the tail, but make sure to avoid burning on the white charcoal pencil lines. Do not use colored pencil to draw in the pale hairs. Colored pencils will melt and char under the heat of the pen tip, whereas white charcoal will resist the heat. Another consideration is the fact that colored pencils tend to bond with the wood more than charcoal does, so removing colored pencil can be challenging. I want to point out that I am not burning uniform or solid blocks of color behind and around the pencil marks. Instead, I am burning curving lines that vary a little in darkness level. I do this to create the impression of more hairs on the tail. These hairs will not stand out as much as the pale hairs that are under the charcoal will, but they will add a lot of texture and realism to the tail. I burn the lines in the general direction as the white charcoal pencil marks. Plus, the closer I get to the top of the tail, the lighter in color the lines become as the hairs along the outer edges of the tail receive more light on them. A lot of the burn strokes I am doing are nothing more than pull-away strokes. I start the stroke at the base or bottom of a hair and pull it upward in a curve that I mentally envision the hair having. I also create lighter hairs as I am working by burning darker on either side of a hair I mentally picture. Hopefully you have figured out by now that the reference photo in the upper right corner is nothing more than a visual guideline to help create the tail. I'm not trying to replicate every hair. In fact, when I drew in the top hairs with the white charcoal pencil, I probably drew in more hairs than the reference photo actually has, but that's what I wanted my tail to look like. After you burn around the charcoal, erase it using a standard pencil eraser. With the charcoal gone, start reburning around the ultra pale hairs to define their edges. Also, lightly burn over those hairs as they are not white in color. Then continue to reburn in the area behind and around the ultra pale hairs to build up the color and texture. Now I'm creating ultra pale hairs on the tail without using a charcoal pencil. Begin by burning tan curving lines and then start burning around those lines so that they stand out. Not everyone will be comfortable with this style of burning. That's okay. I like to show you that there are other ways of creating the tail. Then it's up to you to practice and discover what method works best for how you like to burn. At this point, it's just a matter of working your way along the tail, creating ultra pale hairs and burning in the area around those hairs. Whether or not you want to use white charcoal to draw in the ultra pale hairs is up to you. I did both styles of hair creating throughout the entire process of working on the tail. I only used the charcoal in small areas at a time because it is very prone to smearing. So when I used it, I was extremely careful not to rest my hand on the charcoal. Even in areas where I don't use the charcoal, I do have regular graphite pencil lines to help me shape the tail. This tail is dark enough that it can stand out on its own, but if you put a background, just carefully burn around the hairs that stick up. Then create whatever background texture you're after. Periodically, I rework on a section of the tail, further defining some of the ultra pale hairs. And I also tone down some of the hairs and increase some of the darkness between the hairs. And basically, I'm just fine-tuning the tail. Or as my husband would put it, I'm nitpicking. On the remainder of the tail, I drew in the ultra pale hairs with a white charcoal pencil and then carefully burned around the pencil marks. This is the exact same thing I did along the end of the tail that is behind the squirrel's head. Like I said before, you can create the hairs without the white charcoal. It's really up to you which method you prefer to use. If you compare my artwork with the reference photo, you will see that I didn't come close to replicating the photo exactly. That's okay because it was never my goal. Instead, I wanted to create a bushy tail that had a lot of pale hair standing out on it along the edge. I accomplished my goal. We are all done. I hope the video was helpful. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week.